Sometimes the people closest to you are the quickest to doubt you when you need them most. When you're old and vulnerable, everyone thinks they know better than you do. But what happens when the only person seeing clearly is the one everyone calls crazy? My name is Abner Whitlock. Before we start, hit the subscribe button and tell me where and what time you're watching this story. What I'm about to tell you will shock you. It's about how my own family betrayed me, how a trusted nurse nearly destroyed my health, and how I got revenge that changed everything forever. October 15th was the day my life turned upside down. I was walking down my basement stairs to check the water heater when my foot caught on a loose board. The next thing I knew, I was tumbling down 12 wooden steps, my 74-year-old body hitting every single one. I woke up in Mercy General Hospital 3 days later with a broken hip, 2 cracked ribs, and a concussion that made the room spin like a carnival ride. The doctor said I was lucky to be alive. My son Caleb rushed in from Detroit with his wife Lenora. They looked worried, but I could see something else in their eyes, something that made my stomach turn. They were already treating me like I was broken beyond repair. "Dad, we need to talk about your living situation," Caleb said, not even waiting for me to fully wake up. "I can take care of myself," I told them from my hospital bed. "I've been doing it just fine since your mother passed 5 years ago." Lenora shook her head, her perfectly styled blonde hair bouncing. "Abner, you fell down the stairs. What if this happens again and nobody's there to help?" "It was an accident. The board was loose." "That's exactly the problem," Caleb said. "You're not maintaining the house properly. You're forgetting things." I wasn't forgetting things. I'd noticed that loose board weeks ago but hadn't gotten around to fixing it yet. There's a difference between putting something off and losing your mind, but nobody wanted to hear that. The doctor, a young woman who looked like she was barely out of medical school, agreed with them. "Mr. Whitlock, at your age, falls are extremely dangerous. Having help at home would be the safest option." They discharged me after a week with a walker, a list of medications longer than my grocery list, and a promise from Caleb that help was coming. That help arrived in the form of Felicity Hargrove from Sunshine Care Home Health Services. She was 32 years old with bright red hair and a smile that seemed too perfect to be real. She carried herself like she owned every room she walked into. "Mr. Whitlock, I'm here to make sure you get back to your old self," she said, setting down a bag full of medical supplies. "I've been a nurse for 8 years. You're in excellent hands." Dr. Vernon Hale, my family doctor for 20 years, had recommended her personally. "Felicity comes highly rated," he told me during my first home visit. "She'll take good care of you." I wanted to believe that. God knows I needed the help. For the first 2 weeks, Felicity was everything my family could have hoped for. She helped me with physical therapy exercises, cooked healthy meals, and made sure I took my medications on schedule. She was especially careful with my pills. I was taking 6 different medications: heart pills, blood pressure medicine, pain medication for my hip, pills for my diabetes, something for my cholesterol, and sleeping pills for the insomnia that came after the accident. "It's so important to take these exactly as prescribed," Felicity would say, carefully counting out each pill. "We don't want any complications with your recovery." Caleb and Lenora were impressed. During their weekly visits, they'd praise Felicity like she was a saint. "Dad looks so much better," Lenora would say. "Felicity is working miracles." But I was starting to feel worse, not better. By the 3rd week, I noticed something strange. My pill bottles seemed to be emptying faster than they should. I'd always been careful about tracking my medications. When you're taking 6 different pills multiple times a day, you have to be organized or you'll make a mistake. I kept a notebook where I wrote down every pill I took and when I took it. According to my math, I should have had 12 heart pills left. But when I counted the bottles, there were only 7. "Felicity," I called to her in the kitchen. "I think there might be a problem with my heart medication. The bottle seems light." She came into my bedroom with that perfect smile. "Mr. Whitlock, remember? Dr. Hale increased your dosage last week. You're taking more pills now, so they're running out faster." That didn't sound right. I would have remembered a dosage change. But when I checked my notebook, there was no record of Dr. Hale changing anything. When Caleb called for his daily check-in, I mentioned the pill situation. "Dad, Felicity explained this already, he said with a sigh. Your dosage has increased. You're just having trouble remembering things. I'm not having trouble remembering anything. I keep detailed records. Records can be wrong if you're not writing things down correctly. That stung. I'd been keeping detailed records my entire career as a bookkeeper. I didn't suddenly forget how to count pills. Lenora got on the phone. Abner, we're just worried about you. Head injuries can affect memory, especially at your age. Maybe you should let Felicity handle all the medication management. I can manage my own pills. Can you? Because forgetting medication changes could be dangerous. I hung up frustrated. My own family was treating me like I was senile. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The sleeping pills Felicity had given me weren't working like they usually did. Instead of feeling drowsy, I felt wide awake and anxious. Around midnight, I heard a car door slam outside. I looked out my bedroom window and saw a white Honda Civic parked in my driveway. It wasn't Felicity's car, she drove a blue Toyota. 10 minutes later, I heard my back door open. Someone was in my house. I grabbed my walker and slowly made my way toward the kitchen, staying in the shadows. Through the doorway, I could see a figure moving around with a small flashlight. It was Felicity. But she wasn't supposed to be here. Her shift ended at 6 p.m., and she didn't come back until 8 a.m. the next morning. I watched from the hallway as Felicity opened my medication cabinet. She took out several bottles, shook pills into her hand, and then put pills from a different bottle back into each container. She was switching my real medications with something else. When she turned around, our eyes met. For a split second, her perfect nurse mask slipped, and I saw something cold and calculating underneath. Mr. Whitlock. You startled me, she said, quickly closing the cabinet. I came back because I forgot to give you your evening dose of blood pressure medication. At midnight. I was driving by and saw your light on. I was worried you couldn't sleep because you missed your medication. It was a smooth lie, but it was still a lie. I knew what I'd seen. The next morning, I called Caleb as soon as Felicity left. She was here at midnight, going through my medications, I told him. Dad, that doesn't make sense. Why would she come back at midnight? She said she forgot to give me my blood pressure pills, but that's not true. She gave them to me at dinner. There was a long pause. Dad, are you sure this happened? Maybe you had a dream. I wasn't dreaming. I saw her switching pills around in my cabinet. Dad, this is concerning. You're becoming paranoid. Felicity is a professional nurse. She wouldn't do anything to hurt you. When I called Dr. Vernon Hale's office, his nurse was equally dismissive. Mr. Whitlock, head injuries can sometimes cause confusion and false memories. Are you taking your medications as prescribed? Nobody would listen to me. They all thought the old man was losing his mind. If nobody would believe me, I'd have to prove it myself. The next day, while Felicity was at lunch, I carefully examined all my medication bottles. Several pills looked different from what they should be. My heart medication was supposed to be small and white, but some of the pills in the bottle were larger and slightly yellow. I called my pharmacy, Westside Drug Store, and spoke to the pharmacist, Mrs. Chen, who'd been filling my prescriptions for years. Mr. Whitlock, I'd be happy to check your medications. Can you bring them in? Actually, could you tell me what my heart pills are supposed to look like? She described pills that didn't match what was in my bottle. If you're concerned about your medications, you should bring them in immediately. Taking the wrong pills could be very dangerous. That confirmed it. Someone was tampering with my medications. I needed evidence that nobody could dismiss. The next day, I called my neighbor's grandson, Tommy, who was home from college. Tommy, I need help with something, and I'll pay you well for it. Sure, Mr. Whitlock. What do you need? I need you to help me set up a hidden camera in my house. Tommy was a smart kid studying computer science. He didn't ask too many questions when I explained that I suspected someone was coming into my house at night. We set up a small wireless camera behind some books on my bedroom shelf, positioned to record anyone who approached my medication cabinet. Tommy also gave me a digital voice recorder that I could keep in my pocket. The camera will record everything to your computer, Tommy explained. Even in the dark. For 3 nights, nothing happened. I started to wonder if Felicity had gotten suspicious and changed her routine. But on Thursday night, around 1 a.m., I heard the familiar sound of my back door opening. I stayed perfectly still in my bed, pretending to sleep, while the camera recorded everything. Through barely open eyes, I watched Felicity move around my room with a small flashlight, going straight to my medication cabinet. She opened bottle after bottle, removing my real medications and replacing them with look-alike pills. The whole process took about 15 minutes. But the most damning evidence came when she made a phone call. I had the voice recorder in my pajama pocket, and it picked up every word of Felicity's hushed phone conversation. "Yeah, it's going perfectly," she whispered. "The old man has no idea. His family thinks he's going senile, so nobody believes anything he says." She laughed quietly. "I'm getting about 200 pills a week from him. The heart medication alone is worth $500 on the street." My blood ran cold as I realized what was happening. Felicity wasn't just stealing my medications, she was selling them illegally. The best part is his insurance keeps approving refills because his doctor thinks he's taking everything. It's like having an unlimited prescription drug supply. She was destroying my health to make money selling my medications to drug dealers. The next morning, I reviewed the camera footage on my computer. Everything was there in perfect detail: Felicity stealing my medications, making the phone call, bragging about how easy it was to fool everyone. When she arrived for work at 8 a.m. with her usual bright smile, I was ready for her. "Felicity, we need to talk." "Of course, Mr. Whitlock. How are you feeling today?" I turned my computer screen toward her and pressed play. Her face went white as she watched herself stealing my medications. "I can explain," she said quickly. "Explain what?" "How have you been poisoning me with fake pills while selling my real medications? You don't understand. I was just trying to help manage your medications better." I played the audio recording of her phone call. Her shoulders sagged as she heard her own voice bragging about the scheme. "How long has this been going on?" I demanded. She looked trapped. "Mr. Whitlock, please. I made a mistake. I can fix this. The only thing you're going to fix is your story for the police." First, I called Caleb. "Son, I need you to come over immediately. And bring Lenora." "Dad, I'm at work. Can this wait?" "No, it can't wait. I have proof that Felicity has been stealing my medications and replacing them with fakes." "Dad, we've talked about this. I have video evidence and recorded phone calls. Get over here now." Something in my tone must have convinced him because he said he'd be there within the hour. Next, I called Dr. Vernon Hale's office. "I need Dr. Hale to come to my house immediately. It's a medical emergency involving prescription drug theft." Finally, I called my lawyer, Tobias Mercer. I'd used him for estate planning, and I trusted him completely. "Tobias, I need legal representation. I'm about to expose a case of prescription drug theft and elder abuse." Caleb and Lenora arrived first, both looking skeptical and annoyed. "Dad, what's this about?" Caleb asked. I played the video footage and audio recording for them. I watched their faces change from doubt to shock to horror as they realized what they were seeing and hearing. "Oh my God," Lenora whispered, covering her mouth. "She was actually stealing from you. And you both thought I was hallucinating," I said quietly. Caleb looked devastated. "Dad, I'm so sorry. We should have believed you. She's been replacing my real medications with fake pills. Do you understand what that could have done to my health?" Felicity, who had been sitting silently in the corner, finally spoke up. "Mr. Whitlock, I can pay you back for the medications. This doesn't have to involve the police." "It's too late for that," I told her. Dr. Vernon Hale arrived 20 minutes later, looking concerned and confused. "Abner, what's this about prescription drug theft?" I showed him the evidence. Dr. Hale's face grew grave as he watched the footage and listened to the recording. "This is unbelievable," he said. "Felicity, I recommended you personally. How could you do this to one of my patients? Dr. Hale, please, Felicity pleaded. I was going through a rough time financially. I made some bad decisions. You endangered this man's life, Dr. Hale said angrily. These fake medications could have killed him. He examined the pills Felicity had left behind. These appear to be over-the-counter pain relievers made to look like heart medication. Abner, if you'd been taking these instead of your real heart pills, you could have had a heart attack. Dr. Hale insisted we call the police immediately. This is a serious crime that could have resulted in Mr. Whitlock's death. Detective Sarah Morrison arrived with 2 other officers. She was a woman in her 40s who specialized in elder abuse cases. Mr. Whitlock, you did exactly the right thing by gathering evidence, she told me after reviewing everything. Without this video and audio proof, it would have been very difficult to prosecute this case. She arrested Felicity on charges of prescription drug theft, elder abuse, fraud, and endangering the welfare of a vulnerable adult. We've been investigating a ring of healthcare workers who steal prescription medications from elderly patients, Detective Morrison explained. Your evidence might help us solve several other cases. Over the next few days, the police investigation revealed that Felicity was part of a larger operation. She had been stealing medications from at least 6 other elderly patients and selling them to a drug dealer downtown. The street value of the medications she'd stolen from me alone was over $4,000. Mr. Whitlock, Detective Morrison told me, your blood work from last month shows dangerously low levels of your heart and diabetes medications. You were essentially being poisoned by the fake pills she was giving you. Dr. Hale had to completely restart my medication regimen to get my health back on track. Abner, I'm amazed you didn't have a medical emergency. Your body was essentially running without the medications it needed to function. The story made headlines in our local newspaper. Elderly man exposes prescription drug theft ring. Within days, it was picked up by state news outlets. Reporters wanted to interview me about how I'd caught the nurse who was supposed to be helping me. I want people to know that just because you're old doesn't mean you're stupid, I told the Channel 7 news crew. I knew something was wrong, but everyone treated me like I was losing my mind. The story resonated with people. I received letters from elderly people across the state sharing similar experiences of being dismissed by their families and healthcare providers. Sunshine Care Home Health Services fired Felicity immediately and launched an investigation into their hiring practices. It turned out they hadn't done a proper background check. If they had, they would have discovered she'd been suspected of medication theft at a previous job. The state nursing board suspended her license pending the outcome of the criminal case. Her defense attorney tried to plea bargain, but the prosecutor wasn't interested. Your client endangered the lives of vulnerable elderly patients for profit, he told them. This case is going to trial. Felicity eventually pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. She was sentenced to 4 years in state prison and ordered to pay restitution to all her victims. Tobias Mercer filed a civil lawsuit against both Felicity and Sunshine Care for damages related to my medical care, pain and suffering, and emotional distress. Abner, we can prove that their negligence put your life in danger, he explained. The fake medications could have killed you. The lawsuit was settled out of court for $150,000. Sunshine Care agreed to implement better hiring practices and regular medication audits for their patients. But the money wasn't the most important victory for me. The hardest part of this whole experience wasn't being robbed by Felicity, it was being doubted by my own family. Dad, we owe you a huge apology, Caleb said during one of his visits after the arrest. We should have listened to you. You treated me like I was senile, I told him honestly. When I needed your support, you sided with a stranger over your own father. Lenora was crying. Abner, we were so wrong. We were trying to protect you, but we ended up putting you in more danger. You weren't trying to protect me. You were trying to manage me. There's a difference. The trust between us had been damaged, and it was going to take time to repair. A week after Felicity was sentenced, I called Tobias to my house for a private meeting. I want to make some changes to my will, I told him. Abner, are you sure you want to make major decisions while you're still processing all this trauma? I've never been more sure of anything. I explained what I wanted to do. Caleb and Lenora would still inherit my house and savings, but there would be conditions. They have to write formal apologies acknowledging that they failed to believe me when I needed their support. These apologies will be notarized and kept with my estate documents. And if they refuse to write the apologies, then they inherit nothing and everything goes to the local senior center. I also added a provision that if they ever again dismissed my concerns, Abu so focused on what he thought was best for me that he hadn't listened to what I was actually saying. Dad, I realize now that I was treating you like a problem to be solved instead of a person who deserved respect and trust. I failed you as a son, and I'm sorry. Lenora's letter was equally heartfelt. Abner, I let my fear of something happening to you cloud my judgment. I should have known that you wouldn't make up stories about someone stealing from you. Reading those letters meant more to me than any amount of money. 6 months after my nightmare began, I was healthier than I'd been in years. With my real medications back, my heart condition was under control, my diabetes was managed, and I was sleeping better. I'd hired a new home health aide, an older woman named Betty who came recommended by 3 different patients and had a spotless record. More importantly, she treated me with respect and listened when I had concerns. Caleb and Lenora had changed too. They visited more often, asked for my opinions instead of making assumptions, and never again suggested that I was imagining things. The Felicity Hargrove case became a cautionary tale in our community. Other families started paying closer attention to their elderly relatives' medication management, and several more cases of healthcare worker theft were uncovered. I kept copies of all the evidence, the video footage, the audio recordings, the police reports. Not because I needed them anymore, but because they reminded me of an important truth. When everyone around you is telling you that you're wrong, sometimes you're the only one who's right. Age doesn't make you stupid. Experience doesn't make you paranoid. And when something seems wrong, it usually is. I trusted my instincts, I gathered proof, and I fought back against people who tried to take advantage of me. They thought I was hallucinating. But the only thing unreal was their trust in the wrong person. To anyone watching this who feels like nobody believes them, who feels like everyone treats them like they don't know what they're talking about, don't give up. Trust yourself. Get proof. Fight back. You're stronger than you think, and you deserve better than people who dismiss your concerns. Remember to like and subscribe if this story inspires you. And tell me in the comments, have you ever been in a situation where nobody believed you but you knew you were right? Sometimes the best revenge is simply proving that you were telling the truth all along.